Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. It is Sunday. Thank you so much for your patience. My name is Dr. DeAndrea Matthews. I am the founder and CEO of Claire Alden Publications. Thank you again for your patience. We had some technical difficulties, but we were able to work through them, and we are all set for our author chat on today. So joining me in the studio is Anita Morgan, who is one of the co-authors for the Overcomers Anthology. So, Anita, why don't you start by telling people a little bit about who you are and what your book chapter and your other book is about?
My name is Anita Morgan. I have been active in Christian ministry for over 10 years. My book chapter in the Overcoming Anthology is about overcoming addictions and specifically overcoming addictions for leaders. I think that there is a problem in our churches that is not addressed, and that is kind of um, overlooked, especially among the leaders. You know, it's one thing to be a lay person, but it's another thing to have a struggle and you're supposed to be a leader, supposed to be someone to be looked up to. But people forget that even leaders are human. We're all human.
That's
And
right.
my chapter deals with my my journey to overcoming addiction. Um, when I started out in the ministry, I had just got saved, and I didn't have people to walk me through that, and people think that overcoming is something that you can do in one day. Some people do get it in one day, but most people, you have to fight. And so that's what my chapter is about.
All right. So, tell us a little bit about your first book because this is not your first publication. The Overcomers Anthology is actually your sophomore publication. So, tell us about your first book.
My first book, Spiritual Warfare Refocused, Preparing the Heart of Man, is a book that deals with spiritual warfare. If you've been in any church for any length of time, you know that we some churches practice spiritual warfare, and my book was to say that spiritual warfare doesn't just start by yelling at the devil and everything else. Sometimes we have to deal with what's here first. We can't cast out something in somebody else if you haven't dealt with what's in your own heart and you haven't allowed God to that spiritual warfare to start with you. Spiritual warfare always starts with you. It starts with you even at the cross. The day that you say that I repent of my sins and I receive Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, that is spiritual warfare. You transition from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. And so that is a war right in and of itself. The enemy, Satan, has lost another soldier and God has gained a child. So that warfare starts at the cross. The warfare starts when you are born. So my book, Spiritual Warfare Refocused, Preparing the Heart of Man, is preparing man, us, humans, people of God, to begin to fight here so that when we go through tribulation in this life, when the enemy starts rearing, which he has, start rearing his ugly head, we know how to fight and we know how to aid each other in battle, in spiritual battle, because not all things can be won physically. We have to fight on our knees, but we cannot fight if we don't have Christ.
All right. So, for those of you who are just joining us, I am here with author Anita F. Morgan. I'm going to go ahead and read her bio for those of you who are not familiar with her or with her work. Trying to be a part of the in crowd, this overcomer not only sold drugs, but became addicted to marijuana and cigarettes during her teen years. Her need for acceptance and validation from others superseded any thought of consequence. Ultimately, walking away from a life of undesirable decisions, Anita Morgan now celebrates and loves herself, even to the point of remaining celibate for almost 15 years. So tell us a little bit about that journey because that's overcoming in itself. So many people struggle with sexual immorality. So tell us a little bit about that part of your journey.
That is, walking with the Lord. When I came to the Lord, I told the Lord that I would not allow another man to touch me until he brought me the man that he believes that I should have for my life. But I also said to God that even if you don't, I want to still be able to serve you. You see what I'm saying? Part of my celibacy is we want husbands and wives for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be loved. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you seek it for the wrong reason, you can lose focus on God. And part of my journey is this: finding out who I am. And you know what? It was funny because I was praying for God to send me. I'm like, Lord, send me a husband, send me a husband. Oh God, send me a man. Oh God. And you know what he told me?
What's
And
that?
it broke my heart. He said, why would I send a man to you when you can't even deal with yourself? Why would I give you a godly man that you want and you ain't even served God?
And so many people are looking forward to the wedding. They focus on the wedding and not the marriage. Marriage takes work every single day.
It does. It does. And but the thing is, and another thing is that some people get married and they don't know God. And then you got
True.
to learn how to be married to God and to your spouse all over again. 15 years of celibacy taught me how to be married to God, or how to have that relationship with God. That
Mm-hmm.
way I can walk into that relationship with my soon to be husband, whoever he is, you
All
know.
right. I love it. I love the
But,
attitude.
but, but I want to say one more thing. People say, well, don't you have needs? Don't you have, yes, I still have human desires. Yes, I still want to be loved. Yes, I still want to do, but the thing is that what I found out is I'm healthy.
Yes.
I'm whole. I don't have drama. I have my right mind. My priorities are focused on the Lord. And that way I can enjoy a marriage when I do get one.
Amen.
So celibacy is not just about not doing it, it's about getting yourself together.
Right. Right. That's so true. So tell us, as an author, what do you consider to be your biggest win?
My biggest win as an author was writing that book, my first book, and not only writing the book, but knowing that I did the research, knowing that I put in the hours. It took long hours. It took sleepless days. Well, not necessarily sleepless, but I was working midnight, so I would get off of work and go straight to the library. You know, I worked for months, and to know that I wrote something that God led me to and gave me this book to write to help his people and to see it done. Not only did I write it, but I got it done in the time period in which it needed to get done.
Good.
And that is the win. The win isn't the notoriety. The win is knowing that I completed it. And not did I just complete it, but I did justice by it. I did all that I could do to get the right information out so that the people can have it.
I love that. So for those of you who are watching and you want to write a book, listen, she was working midnights and she'd get off work and go to the library to write it because she knew that this was a part of her assignment for that season. I love that. I love that dedication. I love that discipline. So in what ways do you think that you needed to change in order to accomplish your goal of, not just writing the first book, but also completing the book chapter?
What I needed, the first thing that needed to change when I was invited to write this book, to write the chapter in this book, the first thing I thought was to write something general. And I was starting to write in general about overcoming because I knew about overcoming. But it was the Lord that says, we overcome by the word of our testimony, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And the thing that had to change in me was fear. Fear of what other people would say about me because of where I came from.
Mm.
Listen, Why would you come to Christ if you don't have nothing that you had to fight to get to him for? I mean, what is the point of all of this? And I had to say, you know what? If I had to lay it all on the line. The biggest thing, spiritual warfare refocused, my first book, it showed you part of me. I preach and I go around preaching and going to visiting and preaching and stuff like that. And I do tell other people about my testimony, but not like this. Not like this. It was it it was revealing. It left me totally naked spiritually. Me to you, me to you, who I am, where I came from.
Yeah.
I had to change my perception of the of what my purpose is. My purpose is not just to go around and speak, but my purpose is to be my life to be an example of the gospel
All
and to
right.
get rid of fear.
All right. So, for those of you who are listening in, of course, I've had the privilege of reading everyone's story. I want you to join us every night this week because every night we're talking with one of the co-authors in the Overcomers Anthology, and it's important to understand that these overcomers not just wrote a book chapter, not just shared a piece of their story, but they literally had to peel back layers, and they were not only transparent. Transparency is when you can see into someone's life and see what's going on, but they were vulnerable and they really talked about not just what was going on with them, but they told again the unadulterated truth. They really poured out and let people know again some things that others would be ashamed of, others wouldn't want people to know about, but they put it all in their book chapter so that others could be healed and others could be delivered from the things that they have now overcome themselves. So hats off to each one of the co-authors, and I hope you'll join us to hear their stories this week. So if you could tell your younger self something about being a writer, what would that be?
To write with a purpose and don't be afraid. I since I was young, I was a writer. You know, I remember one time I wrote something and it was very descriptive and more like on a 5-year old romance novel type. And my mother found it and she was not very happy, but you know about that. But I always loved to write. I would tell myself, don't be afraid.
Okay.
You gotta stick to it. Stay focused and do it.
Good. Now you mentioned don't be afraid, and I want to kind of drop another little plug in since I can. But for those of you who want to find out about volume 2 of the Overcomers Anthology, it's not officially launching until June 1st, but volume 2 is dealing with overcoming fear. For those of you who want to be a part of an anthology, who want to be a published author as well, you have an opportunity coming up. So we're going to be launching officially the information June 1st. But if you want to find out more about being a published author, being a part of the Overcomers Anthology Volume 2, which is dealing with overcoming fear, DM me, send me an email at info@clairealden.com. I'll get you that information early. So I love that. Don't be afraid. And so many of us would tell our younger selves that if we had an opportunity. We talked about the 5 things that you learned as a part of being a part of this anthology. What are the 5 things that you learned that you're taking away from this experience?
You know, like I said, when I was invited to do the anthology, um, I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know what everybody else was writing. So I'm sitting up there trying to figure out what everybody else writing in my mind. Like, what could they be possibly writing about? You know, are we writing in general? Are we writing this? Are we writing that? And like I said, you know, I was led to just write my testimony and kind of find out everybody's basically writing their testimony. One thing I found out, learned about myself is to be obedient. Just stick. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. But at the same time, you got to be cohesive with everybody else. You see what I'm saying? I never got the memo like, hey, uh, Dr. D is writing this and Minister Brian's writing that, or Aisha's writing this, you know. But another thing is that when you're doing an anthology, you gain strength from your other co-authors, knowing that you're not the only one that's carrying this. You're just a piece of the puzzle. An anthology, everybody has a piece, and it makes it like a beautiful mosaic or painting. So that's another thing I learned. It's not about you per se. It's about the whole, the collective.
Yes.
Do your part, and everything else, and everybody else will bring their part, and then it will be a whole. You understand? So
Yeah.
that's another thing that I learned while writing this and writing my chapter. Um, and another thing is this: when you're contributing to a project,
Hmm.
give it your best, give it your all. You know, like I said, I was going to write in general. If I would have wrote in general, that would have brought the whole project down. Now that I see it as a whole, I would have had been like, oh no, 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 no. Maybe you have to find, you know, I have to go back and do this. You know what I'm saying? I have to, you know, rethink this. I have to rethink this. Give it your all. Don't worry about whether or not you think it's good enough. You know, you got an editor, you have a, you know, your editor is there, your publisher is there. They're going to help you through this. You just got to give your best when you're doing being a part of a team project. It's like going to work and working on a project at work. You
Yeah.
know, you have different team members that put in different things for one specific project. You, but everybody has a part, but you got to come with yours. So my biggest thing was making sure I didn't let my team down.
I love
That was it, and making sure I gave the best.
it. Good. Good. All right. So, what has been the best part for you as far as participating in this anthology? You talked about some great things already. You talked about, again, the community of support and the team project. And again, all of the co-authors really, work well together. And I love the sessions that we kind of had behind the scenes and coming together and doing the readings when we came together finally to read everyone's chapter. And, you didn't read your own chapter. I actually had them to switch out and have someone else read their chapter so they could hear what it sounds like when someone else is reading it. Because again, for some of us, this is our first time participating in something like this, our first time being an author, even though most of you are sophomore authors now. But what has been the best part of participating in this anthology?
I think you basically hit it. It was that behind the scenes moment. Listening to everyone. We all had to read the chapters, and we all had to put on our, some of us are more dramatic than others. But when you listening to each and everybody's story, man, we was in there crying. Well, I was. I think a couple other ones was crying. I ain't gonna name no names, but we was crying, and there was a lot of revelation. I learned from everybody,
Yes.
from everyone, and so that is the key: is learning from not just, like I said, it's not about just me. It's
Yes.
about all of us. You know what I'm saying? When I read Denise chapter, I was like, oh my God. So many things came through my mind like, God, Lord, you brought her through that. And when I'm listening to Aisha and to Brian, and I think you got away with reading yours, but no, we did. But listening to everybody, I learned a lot, and I learned about myself, how I can. I think that is the point of the anthology.
Yeah.
The point of the anthology is not to just read a book about overcoming. It's about reading that book and identifying with things in you and using that as strength to say, you know what? I don't have to remain in the place that I was before. I don't
Yeah.
have to remain in this place where I am now. The Lord has better purpose for me. I have to get up and do something. I have to be strong. These people made it through. I can make it through. And that's the thing, and especially today when we're going through so much.
Very true. Very true. So there is a method to my madness. This is not like your regular anthology. Don't just submit a chapter and okay, end up with a published book. You do develop a new family. You learn about each other. You grow together. There's a lot of fun things that happen behind the scenes, and again, it's a growth process, and we are there to support each other. So again, being a part of an anthology is a great experience overall, not just because, I'm the contributing editor, not just because I'm arranging it and I'm the publisher, but it's the same for me as well because each of us were very vulnerable. Each of us shared things that we probably had not shared with anyone previously, especially not out loud. Even though it's printed and people are going to read it, it's probably some things we had not shared out loud. So having that support of the other co-authors was very important.
Yes,
So, Anita, if you could share any words of wisdom with someone who's thinking about participating in an anthology or thinking about saying, hey, I want to be a part of volume 2, what would your words of wisdom be?
I would say this. The new anthology is about overcoming fear,
Yes.
right? You
Yes.
said that. Let that be your first word of wisdom. Overcome fear in order to get it done. I mean, we don't have that much time. And there's people that need to hear your voice. There's people that need to hear your insight. You have a purpose. Everybody on the earth has a purpose. And if you are wanting to be a part of this anthology, I will say, look, fight to write, fight to contribute to this. You don't know who was going to read this. You don't know who's going to pick this up. Don't worry about what everybody else is thinking about you. Don't worry about what everybody has said about you. You know, um, sometimes we look in the mirror and we don't like ourselves. We don't like what we see. We don't think that nobody wants to hear. And trust me, from a person that understands that, I understand. Why would anybody want to listen to me? Get that out of your mind.
Yes.
If you're going to do this, make up your mind, make the choice now, and begin to write. Don't worry about whether or not you got the invitation, whether you got this money, whether you got this, whether you got that. Get your book, get your pen, get in a quiet place, and begin to write now. And then go from there.
All right. So, with an anthology, for those of you who are wondering more about an anthology, what it is, and all of that, an anthology is a nonfiction work. It's a collection of different authors coming together for a combined purpose, obviously. But, like she said, it's not about you, it's your story. But with any type of nonfiction, whether it's for an anthology, whether it's a memoir, or whatever you're writing, it's not just about you. Nonfiction is designed to solve a problem or to provide a solution for someone else. So even though we each told different aspects of our story, and again, just the snippet into our lives, it's about sharing that story for the benefit of someone else. So you know that you're not alone, so that you know that, other people have experienced this and have come out on the other side. This is really about sharing, again, like she said, our testimony so other people can have some hope, can have someone to talk to, someone to read about and even reach out to so that they know that they are not by themselves. So what's next for you as an author? Are there any projects that you're working on? What's next for you? What can we expect from you?
Uh yeah, I have I do have two projects in the works. Um a nonfiction and another fiction in a fiction book.
Okay.
Um I do, and I have written on both of them. So I have a lot on both of them already. And it's funny that the nonfiction is actually harder than I mean the fiction is actually harder than the nonfiction, boy, I tell you. But I have those two coming out. I also want to put out I have some plans to write some nice little like spiritual pamphlets or something like that to help people um understand who God is or connect with, understand the Holy Spirit and things like that. Just teaching. to help people. It might come a time when we might not have the internet, when we might not can get on the internet and tell people, hey, Jesus is the only way, and the only thing you might have is a book. The greatest book of all to read is the Bible. But I do have those. So I have one. My nonfiction book is about the rapture. Actually, it's about pre-raf, post-trib, and everything else. I was going to get into um, delineating between all of those, but I'm more leaning towards writing why I think we should, and the difference between Satan's wrath and God's wrath. That's basically what it is. So it's still working. It's still a work in progress. But yeah, hopefully that'll be done next couple of months.
All right. So you gave us a sneak peek about the nonfiction. What about the fiction book that you're working on?
Oh
Any
yeah. Well,
teasers?
well, you obviously know a little bit about it. But I had but the nonfiction is about a young man who finds himself basically in hell, right? And it's about I'm using kind of coming from the scripture of when Lazarus and the stranger, the rich man, was in hell, and he was like, "Hey, can you tell Lazarus to go tell my brothers?" And it's about that the person that was in hell, basically, or in that holding space, was not dead. He wasn't dead. He was totally aware of where he was. So the fiction book is the young man travels basically to an underworld place. He was part of this world, and he ended up going there. He was rich and all that other great stuff. And it's supposed to be a trilogy. So we're gonna see how that works out. But and what he finds is that there is a war coming, a
Mhm.
massive war coming. And he has to go back and tell others about the war before it's too late.
All right.
In
Sounds
short,
in short. Okay. So
yes.
for anyone watching, if you have any questions for Anita, drop them in the comments so that we can ask them while we're here on the live stream. If some questions come up after the live stream is done, I'm sure Anita will be checking back so that she can answer those questions. But if you have any questions, go ahead, drop those in the comments so we can get those to our author during our author chat. And while we're doing that, why don't you share with us where people can connect with you if they want to follow you, find out more about what you're working on, find out more about this trilogy that you're talking about, or any other things that you have going on? Where can people connect with you?
You can connect with me on Facebook. My name is Anita Morgan on Facebook. On Instagram, my name is Redeemed One underscore Redeemed REDEEMED ONE Redeemed One. I do have a Twitter page. It is called hold on, let me figure out what that is. It's called Redeemed One at Grace Redeemed Me. So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by those handles.
All right. So we have one question. Who or what inspired you to become an author?
You know, I don't know if I could say it was a who, but I remember when I was like in kindergarten, and I wrote my first real story was about the mad scientist and the banana. And I remember reading it to my mom and to my dad, and the mad scientist, he wanted to bring the banana alive. The banana came alive and began to destroy it. It was like a Frankenstein type deal. I don't know where that came from, but that's the first story I remember writing as a kindergartner. I think that story was very good, actually, for a kindergartner. I mean, he was rampaging, the banana was going all over. My mom was like, "Where did you get that from?" I was like, "I don't know." But I've always wanted to. I was in school. I always did the reading programs where you read so many books and you get the prize and stuff. But it was always somebody who won more than me. But I just always loved writing. I just always loved reading and writing and researching. So
All
I
right.
don't know where it came from. I just have to say it came from the Lord. Um, and I can't say that any specific author said, like I want to do this because this person did that. I just read so many books that I wanted to be a part of that, you know.
Yes, good. If you have any other questions, go ahead, drop them in the comments. But what she said is important because I found that to be true in my own life. The more you read, the better of a writer you become. So it's important that if you desire to write, if you desire to become an author, it's important to read great books as well. So, as you're reading, you'll be inspired whether you want to write fiction or whether you want to write nonfiction. So again, if there are any other questions, go ahead and drop them in so that we can get them on our live stream. But if you don't have any and you come back, we'll be able to answer them then. All right. So let's see. Another question. Anita, now that you told your story, how do you feel?
Now that I told my testimony, and it's funny that you should ask that because you know that I am a minister, I'm an elder in the church or whatever, and I've always told bits and pieces, so it's like these people knew it, these people knew it, this person knew it, this person knew it. But now that I told it, it actually feels quite vulnerable, in a way that I never felt before, but in a way that I feel good. I'm gonna tell you why it's important for a person to tell their testimony as a believer in Christ. Because the enemy cannot use that against you. He cannot keep you in shame. He can't keep you in condemnation. He can't keep you in rejection. He can't keep you in fear. He can't keep you, even if somebody walk up to you and be like, hey, I remember when you used to sell weed and smoke weed and everything else. And you be like, yeah, I remember that, but I'm not the same person no more. So what? Now let's talk about some real stuff. It feels good. It actually does. It feels really good. And also, I know this, that because I told my story, that other people can now be free. And that is the best part of it. That they know that they are not alone, that they know that they are not struggling by themselves, that somebody else had to go through it. Because let me tell you something. I used to see people that come to the altar, and or I hear stories, oh, I was on crack and all of a sudden I was watching TBN and the Lord came over me and all of a sudden the crack just disappeared. And I'm like, what did that happen to me? I'm not one on crack, but the point is, what did it happen to me, Lord? He says, so you can learn how to get free and teach others how to get free. And my story is to tell you that grace of God requires trust, and that grace gives you strength and it gives you power to overcome.
I love that. I love that. And just to reiterate what we said earlier, if you're just joining us, sometimes people overcome, like she said, in an instant. Sometimes it's a process. There's no cut and dry formula, but thank God for overcoming because, each and every one of us has overcome something. So we're grateful for that. For those of you who are looking for a copy of the paperback, it is not available online yet. It's not on Amazon. It's not available except through your favorite co-author. So I want you to go ahead and reach out to your favorite co-author. We're going to be featuring them all week long. If you want a copy of the paperback, contact one of them. So Anita, if you want to get a copy of the paperback from her, contact her. The paperbacks will be delivered this week. So I'll be delivering the paperbacks to our co-authors. So if you reach out to them, you'll be one of the first ones to get your copy. The paperbacks are $15. So reach out to one of your favorite co-authors to be able to get your copy. They will not be available on Amazon until June. So make sure that you reach out to them if you want to get a copy. That way you can read all about all the story, the juicy details and everything else that each of us shared in the Overcomers Anthology. So thank you again, Anita, for being our guest this evening. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah. Well, one, I want to talk about when they order the book. Like if you order from me, I'm already a published author. So I was so the books won't be here until June, and I have a special because I want you not just to be able to overcome, but I also want you to be able to have spiritual warfare refocus. So like she said, the book is $15, and I am offering a special of 2020. This is one of these fighting years. So when you order, you can also get a copy of Spiritual Warfare Refocus, Preparing the Heart of Man, when you order the copy of Overcomers Anthology too from me.
All right, that's wonderful. I'm typing
And
this.
it'll be autographed.
Yeah, so you can get an autographed copy of both books from Anita. You got to reach out to her, and she's running a special for $20.20. You can get the Overcomers Anthology Volume 1 and Spiritual Warfare Refocus, which is her first book. So that is an awesome special that you're running. Again, tell us how we can get in touch with you. What's your email? How can they reach out to you if they want to get take part in that special?
If you want to take part in that special, you can reach me at Francine Love. That is FrancineLove at yahoo.com. You can also send me a message through Messenger, Facebook Messenger, uh, to get more particulars about that. Also, I'll be putting it, announcing it in a few days on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
All right, so you heard it here first. She's running a special, $20.20. You can get both books. And I think, what is your first book retail for?
My first book retails for $14.99.
Okay, so both books are running at $15. So it's a $30 value for both of them. You can get both copies autographed for $20.20. So you want to reach out to her and take part of that special. All right, any other final thoughts you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, we're here talking about overcoming. And I want everybody to understand that you can overcome. That no matter what situation you're facing, no matter where you at in life, don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on that loved one. Keep fighting. And if you want to become an author, if you, whatever your dream is in life, you cannot allow fear, rejection, shame, or anything else stop you or get in your way. This is a fighting situation. You have to fight every day. So I just tell you to stay encouraged. Love your love your family, love your friends as much as you can. And that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I am your host, Dr. DeAndrea Matthews, founder and CEO of Clear Alton Publications. And we have with us Anita F. Morgan, co-author in the Overcomers Anthology and also author of Spiritual Warfare Refocus. Thank you all for spending your Sunday evening with us. We love you. We'll talk to you soon. Join us tomorrow. We'll have another co-author that we feature. We're coming on tomorrow at noon. Denise Crumbie is going to be joining me. So you'll hear more about her book chapter and find out 5 things that she learned as a result of being a co-author in the Overcomers Anthology. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.